Good evening, all. Welcome to this webinar by A Museum Art Science. A museum aims to introduce a new age philosophy called art science. We have been considering art and science traveling in two different and parallel ways, which never are going to meet. This new age philosophy, art science, is looking for the merge of these parallels at the level of creativity. Creativity seems to be the core idea of both art as well as science. A museum, Art Science, is the premier institution in India working on this philosophy and has been organizing programs to promote scientific temper and aesthetic values in the society. Sante Sharing Thoughts on Art is a series of talks, discussions, and presentations on art. In its 22nd edition, this webinar features contemporary artist, Mumbai-based artist Shilpa Joglekar, with her selected works through a slide presentation. After that, it will be followed by a conversation with Sushma Sabnis. Later on, attendees in this webinar can participate interaction with Shilpa Joglekar also. A museum welcome Shilpa Joglekar, Sushma Sabnis, and the participants and attendees in this Zoom webinar, as well as those who are watching through the Facebook Live. Sushma Sabnis is actually a biologist by training. She maybe dropped and switched over to art uh, for the last 10 years with few solo and group shows in Mumbai with young contemporary artists. She has been working for a platform called Advaita that was created by her herself. Her essays and features on art have been appeared in noted art journals, including Art and Deal and Creative Minds, Arts, Illustrated, etc. She has been a contributing editor to the online magazines Cartoon Art. She manages the Art Daily, Art Tehelka, two online platforms for art writing, and her reviews, features, and interviews about art shows, art festivals have appeared in leading newspapers. Sushma also worked as curatorial assistant for certain high-profile shows, and she is an active participant and collaborates with many projects of a museum. She also works as a communication coordinator and art consultant in various initiatives ranges on art, uh, basically based in Mumbai. Welcome, Sushma, and handing over to you to take over this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajit. Um, Good evening, everybody. And today we have a fantastic artist. Her name is Shilpa Joglekar. And she is, as I would call her, um, I call her an art migrant. That would be the best name for her, actually. Because, the word migration and migrant has become very, very colloquial. Everybody, everywhere around the world, we have heard it. And there are different kinds of migration that happen. One is happens over the world and over time. It is a physical migration, it is a mental migration, and it is, of course, on the much larger scale, it's also a part of evolution, as we call it. Shilpa Joglekar is an evolutionary migrant in the field of art. That's what I feel about her. Why I call her that is because she has a training in from JJ School of Art. She has done her BFA in painting, and after that she has a master's degree in Indian culture, ancient Indian culture from Bombay University, and a ceramic art course from Nirmala, under the tutelage of Nirmala Patwardhan. And in spite of all that, and going through the entire rigmarole of a normal artist who, visits galleries, has shows, solo shows, group shows, camps, residencies, in spite of all that, at one point, this artist has chosen to leave all that behind and move ahead into the open world, where the economy of it is not really the dictate about how she manages her art practice. And this is one of the reasons I really admire her recent works and some of the works that she has been doing for almost 10 years now, I think. And I give a very warm welcome to Shilpa. Thank you for coming to a Museum Sharing Thoughts. I request you to please show us your slideshow and we'll further take it from there. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to finally start speaking. There is no echo anymore. So, Sushma asked me to share some of the earlier work that I was doing before I started making work in the outdoors. So, these are some of my images of my paintings from three different exhibitions. The first one is from a solo show I did in Paris in 2006. The second one is from a solo show I did in Mumbai in 1996. And the third one is from a solo show I did in Paris in 1996, 98. So these are some of the earlier works. This is a painting done on handmade paper, watercolor, and gouache. This was a part of an exhibition I did, another solo exhibition in Travancore House in New Delhi in 2009. And this entire exhibition was called Biomorphic Dwellings. It was about insects having their own habitat, their dwellings on behind their back, so there's no politics of space and no fight about that. Uh, from 2000, from 1995, as Sushma mentioned, I was very fortunate to find Nirmala Patwardhan, and I chased her, and she became my ceramic teacher. And then, of course, she was a friend, guide, and philosopher. And after learning ceramics, I wanted to make ceramic sculptures. So these are some examples of my ceramic work, which were a part of that exhibition in Travancore House in 2009. These are also a part of that. So there are many a times they are found objects mixed with ceramics, or the other one is a fairly large work which was suspended from the ceiling, and then I was making similar works and suspending them in the outdoor. So very soon after that, in Mumbai, I was offered to do a job in Rachna Samsad, the Academy of Fine Art and Craft. A new fine art college was being started. So for 9 months after designing the syllabus and actually starting the art college, I wanted to take the students out and make the city their studio. And we did a lot of community art projects. So the one that you see on the beach is we were cleaning the beach after the 10th day Ganpati Visarjan, and then the students created sculptures out of the waste. Of course, I was arrested during this time with all the faculty members because we were not supposed to go and touch any of this residue of the idols remaining on the beach. And the image on the left is a grant from Khoj led me to going into Adivasi schools near Maharashtra outside Mumbai and recording their songs, the traditional folk songs, which have coming down from generation to generation. And I made little watercolor drawings and small books. But in order to get this information from them, I decided to make play structures, get involved with the students and the Adivasi people around, work with them. I actually was camping in these little villages for some time, and that was amazing experience for me, very learning. And so a lot of work was done in schools with children, some in Chennai, some in a school, another school in Wada, and these near Karnala and close to Mumbai. These again are two other community art projects. The one on the left is made in Taiwan for a school. So I made a play gym out of bamboo, and then the children had to go and fix windmills, which they made out of paper in their classrooms. So it kind of looked like the whole work is going to float with the windmills. And the second one was done in Barbil in Orissa, which was made again for tribal women. And they actually came and tied their wishes onto this tree. It was called Parivartan Vriksh. This work was made in South Korea on an island called Jara Island. So this was a project to save the island, which was going to be converted into an amusement park. So a bunch of artists decided to, the ministers were invited, and then we decided to stop this park from being converted into an amusement park. But I don't think we have succeeded. But yes, it was a great experience working in the snow, minus 20 degrees. And this is a snow seed. I called it because I wanted something new to germinate on that island and not an amusement park. So this work was made there. This is a detail of that work. This work, you can see the photograph of the island. So we had to travel from Tokyo to this island, and this site was an old salt museum. So I got inside this space and cleaned it. And this island has a live volcano. So people have abandoned their homes and gone. So they'll just look like empty shelled houses. So this work was like a metaphor to what I was seeing there, and the moth is actually leaving away, transcending to another life, and if what you see behind is like a bone structure or a skeleton, and the actual life is gone. So this work was that. This was this was an interesting work. We had to make it in one day. So we went on another island, and after all the artists had selected their sites, I got sand from the beach, and this soft stone was found on that island. So just chiseled it, tied it to the rope, and when you strum that work, they would start making drawings on the sand. So sutras are like stories of the seven islands. So this work was fairly simple. In most of my work, I like to create work where the audience or the people, the spectators are involved or interact with the work directly. So this work was done in Japan. It's called Primitive Sense International Art Festival, where literally the artists were living off the grid in a house where water was coming from the mountains, and we were going on the bicycle and create. So it was another experience. So my work was a Tao temple, and since it was a primitive festival, I decided to make a fertility dragon with 12 breasts, like the 12 months of the year, and she's going to ask blessings for the new farming season. So this was the fertility dragon, and I've used all the local material, the pine needles, to fill up the breasts created out of fabric. This work was done at my art college, JJ School of Art in Mumbai. This was a classroom and very challenging, fantastic space with a high ceiling. So I wanted to create something that kind of occupied the entire space. So I literally lived in that campus for 2-3 nights, and this work was made there. This work was called Resurrection. It kind of shows that the moth is leaving the cocoon and flying away, and it was like a liberation of somebody who has suffered domestic violence. All the red fabric is the violence, and it just taking off, going away from that cocoon. So this work was about that. This work is, there's a Gwandu Nature Park in Taipei, and I made a work in the pond. 15 to 20 days, I was practically living inside that pond. And this was called Where the River Meets the Tide. I made this work which looked like the form of a wave, and if you see the detail, there were stones hanging which looked like rain. I wanted to involve all elements of water, tide, wave, and this was a fairly large work, and there was a whole lot of work done under the water which you can't see. I had a lot of my other artist friends laughing that Shilpa is hammering the water because they could not see the sections of wood that I was fixing inside, and there was a barge tied to my waist with all the tools floating on it. So this was a absolutely life-changing experience. Yeah, this is another detail of the same work. This work was done in France, and the site was a lavoir. A lavoir is a place where in olden days people would go and wash clothes. So I decided that, the lotus is a flower which grows where the water is not so clean, and it's a symbol of spirituality and purity. So I made this work on that lavoir site. Another experience, once again, freezing cold water, and very, very challenging, but fabulous experience to create this work. This is the final image of that work once it was finished. And this was a river, so it was quite challenging. There is an entire, again, structure under the water which you can't see because the water is flowing, so it's more difficult to anchor the work and help it float at the same time. So this site is a tourism park in Taiwan on the East Coast, and they have a East Coast Land Art Festival, so they invited me to make a work there. So for many days I was observing in Taiwan, they have these Chinese brooms with the top part of the bamboo, which is very thorny and looked like a very sturdy and interesting material. So I decided to create this work out of that. This work is actually like a form of a bean, a big bean that has fallen on the grass. And when you open the bean, you see the beans inside when you open the pod. So the white canvas on that kind of represents that, and it's fairly large. So at least 10 to 15 people could go and sit inside it or lie down inside it. And a lot of children I saw later who came to the park playing there. And this work is probably still standing there. It survived a typhoon. There was a grade 5 typhoon, which was another life-changing experience. And the entire work just kind of slept, and then we had to take jeeps and pull it back, save ourselves, and uh, save the work as well. So it was another very, very challenging, life-changing experience. This was an interesting site. This project was done in Sweden called X Sites. So they gave me a site where from the other side I could see the ocean. The ocean, and the other side was Denmark. And I was surprised that there is no line of control, no army, soldiers, and people are so easily passing from one country to another. And it was utopic for me. So I decided to make this work. Next slide. It was called Insight, and it's like a yin yang form. It's again a large work, people could walk through it. So literally like two countries and the water in the middle. That was what, so what you see behind is actually Denmark, and I was on the Swedish side of it. This work I did in Belgium in a small town called Gève, close to Brussels. And again, another interesting site. It was a cemetery, this site. So we had to kind of make space to start making the work. And the soil of this place was very famous. So I made like a large shelter with the hay, and next slide, covered it with mud. Yeah, so again, from the other side is the entrance, and you can walk inside it. At least 10 to 15 people could go and sit in it, and with the little holes, tiny light was kind of coming inside from everywhere. This work was done in a park in Brussels, another challenge, because they wanted the work to be in the middle of the pond. So we had to go with the boat. My partner Gautam and me were working, and we had to take the boat and cross through it, carry all the material, stand on a very thin stone wall and install the work. It was another challenging, life-changing experience. Next slide. Again, it was floating, so the structure was anchored, but the conch in itself was just kind of hanging on that armature. This work I did in Tsukuba Art Center in Japan. It's the north of Tokyo. And Japan is very well known for its washi paper, which they use to make their doors and partitions. I'm in love with that paper. It's extremely strong and fantastic. And my site was close to a lovely blossom of cherry trees. So I thought I should take up this site and use the sakura branches, the bamboo, because there are abundance of bamboo forests in that area, and make a spiral form again where you could kind of go inside the space and walk out of it. And I was for 15 days walking in that spiral. It kind of changed the energy within me in the process of just going in and coming out. As it was getting filled, there was no shortcut. So I had to walk through the whole process. Again, interesting, life-changing experience. Next slide. Yeah, so that's the work. They have a video made by a drone, which actually looks interesting from up because you can see the spiral form. This work I did last year in France, in the Champagne land, in a place called Avis, in a little village called Avis, which is mainly the grape growing country. And they had a pond in the park. So this work was created there. Again, it was freezing cold, 0 degrees, raining heavily, and the work had to be installed in 10 days. Another challenge, but again, very, very amazing experience. Yeah, this is how the final work looked, though later the water was filled again in the pond. And this is Shilpa Shala, a residency space that I built in 2009. We started the construction slowly by little, collecting material. The whole house is a kind of a greenhouse made with recycled material, all the wood that comes from shipping containers, glass bottles, and bamboo. So this place was created to bring in people and share their knowledge regarding art. So we did a couple of workshops here. This was the image of one of the workshops called Method in Madness. We had a 4-day workshop and people from all over India came. It was very interesting exchange of thoughts and ideas. And I would love to continue doing more of these if people show interest in leaving their cushioned homes and coming out to the wild countryside. Yeah, so while talking to Sushma, she was asking me, what do you do when you're in India and you're not traveling? And I said to her that apart from making art, I really love to do farming. So this was the image of growing rice. But this year, because of Corona, I've not grown the rice, but now it's time to start the next crop. So all the pulses and vegetables will begin. Next, I think that's the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shilpa. It was wonderful to look at your works, and especially the last slide I found really interesting, you planting rice paddy. That's something very different. I mean, you don't expect an artist to, get down on their, wearing your gumboots or whatever, just plain bare feet, get
Yes.
into the slush of, planting rice and lentils and whatever you said, pulses. Um, I have a few questions for you. Of course, I wanted to ask you, um, tell us, I mean, this presentation was beautiful. Everything is fine. I want to know what are the problems about being a public art practitioner or site-specific art practitioner. What are the problems that you have faced over so many years? It could be anything. It could be economic. It could be space, anything.
Problems are of various kinds. When you're working with the Adivasi school children, there's always problem of accommodation and lot of restriction as far as, there's no electricity. It's scorching hot in the month of May in India when the students are actually out of school. So those kind of challenges. So sometimes I've worked all night, you know, rested in the day and got generators moving because, it's impossible to do welding or work with tires because they are so hot. I've burnt my hands, literally cinched them several times while drilling my, holes into the tire. So problems like that, or problems like I said, we were arrested when we were working on the beach, or we were painting a ball with the students for the martyrs of the bomb terror attack in Mumbai. So 26/11. And when we were painting, the students were there, so they're all our responsibility. There were passers-by coming and contributing to the work. It was a 1.5-kilometer wall on marine lines. And then there are people who come and they vandalize and they threaten. So there are those kind of problems. And then sometimes there are very basic problems, like when you're working in the nature, sometimes there are no toilets accessible. You're walking a very far distance. And so there are sometimes very simple physical basic problems. So
How when you say that you are when you take up a project for a site specific art like the French ones or the Korean work that you have done, how do you decide, how do you start the process, as in you go check out the place and then how does it work?
Sushma, unfortunately, most of the projects, they want you to send the drawings beforehand. So you have to kind of open a dialogue with them just by seeing the photographs of the site, ask them what kind of plants are growing there, what trees are growing there, what is the temperature, what are the winds like. And you actually do a thorough study and then you start. After that, you kind of find your motivation, your inspiration, and gather things. And also there's a time restriction. Sometimes you do it in 10 days, sometimes 15, sometimes more than that. But when it's shorter time, you're just trying to calculate how you're going to kind of create that work. So it's different each time. But a lot of things one needs to know before actually making the drawing. And sometimes when you go there, a new idea comes to your mind and you say, oh my God, I wish I had done that. But then you've already been called to do this. So you just keep it for another time.
Mm-hmm. So, like I asked you earlier, also during the Corona times, because you are you work in the open. So,
Yes.
what have you been doing apart from doing paddy farming? How do you keep yourself busy as an artist? I mean, that is your practice, right? That going out there and doing things is your practice. So, what
So
do you do?
I actually, it helped me a lot to kind of revisit the part of my practice that I had left behind, uh, entertaining the illness of my nomadic nature. And I really feel that I can't sit in one place indoors. I have to get out after 2 3 days in the city. So that was actually a challenging thing. So I decided to revisit the part of my practice. For example, painting. I started doing my ceramics again, and I'm thoroughly enjoying doing that. And apart from that, I started making animation videos. So I just finished making 5 short videos for a project. I was supposed to be in Washington at this time. And because one cannot travel, they asked us to make digital work. So I just finished that presentation 2 days ago with 5, they were very basic, but it was a kind of a learning experience for me to do something new and not feel stifled in the closed walls of my house.
Is it satisfying for you as an artist? Once you have got into the site specific mode or the public art mode mentally, how do you deal with the digital, the closed, because that's
And
something that you have left behind and move ahead, right?
yes, but
So
as I like to keep doing something new, learning something new. So that was the only thing that kept me going. But I do like to touch things with my hand, feel them, smell them, listen to them. So yeah, those are missing. But then, as far as I'm learning something new and it's a new experience, I'm okay with it.
who are the artists that you sort of like in your field, in the world? It could be anywhere, anyone.
Uh, Very much. Many years ago, I was very inspired by the works of Wolfgang Richter, which is called Gottileb. And I saw his pollen grains collected in bottles in the museum in New York, and that was very, very inspiring for me to see that work. And then there are a lot of my other artist friends all over the world who are working in nature. Those have been a big source of inspiration. And in India, I was glad to have met Nirmala Patwardhan. She was literally my mentor. And at a very young age, when I was studying in Paris on a French government scholarship, I was staying with the Razas. They almost parented me because I was living in Janin's studio and painting there. So at a very early age, that was a very nice kind of a association to have had. And yeah.
So tell us something more about the actual process of your work. I mean, how do you chart it out in your mind? Does the idea come with specifications from the residency or whoever wants the work done, and
Both.
then you think about something, or how much of your art is socially conscious or political or environmental, or that way?
Well, there are
The
some projects.
classification.
Yes, so there are some projects where they are telling you to talk about marine preservation. Many of the works which you're doing in the water, and you are with your work, they're inviting the audience and telling them about how controlling water pollution or things like that, or in general connecting and protecting the environment. So in the open call, they have a list of these requirements that they want you to highlight and speak about. So you start from there, and then once you're on the site, the first thing is to start looking for your material and collecting it. It's quite a challenge. Sometimes they are really large and heavy, so you kind of build muscle to get them there. And most of the time, I'm doing my work alone or with my partner Gautam, who supports me and travels with me just to help me with the picking up the work physically or doing some heavy drilling or things like that. But then we're just two people team, or I'm most of the times doing it alone by myself. So planning is a very essential part. Actually, making detailed drawings. I do a lot of 3D drawings to understand the entire construction of how to build the object, because it needs to be stable. It needs to stand there for a few months. So yeah.
Is your work, or rather your site specific artwork, or the road that you have, the path that you have taken now, have you in some way rejected the gallery white cube?
I have not rejected it. I would love to come to a gallery and make a different kind of work, a different kind of dialogue where people can, interact with it, how they interact with the work outdoor. I would love to do that. but I don't know. Still, I'm enjoying working outdoors. So when I get the opportunity, probably I would love to go and make a work which is indoor as well. I do have a couple of ideas in mind, but
Hmm.
yeah.
I would now request anyone who wants to ask questions to Shilpa. She's here with us. Please, the audience, welcome to. Please present your questions.
Hello.
Shilpa,
Hi.
I just came to say hello to you. Yeah,
Yes.
it was fantastic actually to see all these works, you know.
Thank
And
you.
if at all I have a question, like I mean, I don't know whether you made it clear, but maybe I couldn't listen properly.
Yeah.
Um, you were hugely inspired by Christo and Andy Goldsworthy in a
Yes.
way.
Yes.
Yeah, and
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 Godfrey Lem.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And what's the prospects of this kind of public experimental site-specific art in India? Because if you remember, Umesh started it long back,
Yes.
very long back, like he started, but somehow he didn't continue. And there
Yes.
were so many others, like now H.G. Arun Kumar does a lot of
Yes.
site-specific experimentations. Then there are groups, like whenever there are like a Shilpashala kind of, like the way
Yes.
you have done, and also Khoj contributed a lot in
Oh,
this.
yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But at present, like with our economy changing and the residency spaces changing, and also the approach towards the residencies and experimental art becoming more of a global, kind of homogeneous practices.
Yes.
So how do you think that like this kind of alternative practice that you have taken up, like what's the prospects of it, and how does it going to survive in the long run?
I'm very positive, Johnny. I'm hoping that in India, more and more people invite artists to create work in a public space. And if it's ephemeral work, it's going to die within a short time. So the experiment should happen in the city, and younger people should try to make more work like this and not depend on, you know, so many forces to get you know, invited to galleries or museums, but just make your studio in a public space and go and create a work there. So I'm hoping that people will get invited to do these kind of projects in the future.
And also like your works are more architectural in that sense, like you experiment a lot with the basic structures,
Yes,
and also the mediums that we have left in the due course of development of modern architectures, for example bamboo.
yes.
So how do you approach, how do you relate yourself with this kind of alternative materials, or rather the mainstream materials which have been rendered into alternative? Yeah.
Yes, I feel that when you are doing site-specific work, the local palette is very important. So the soil of that place or the plant of that place, the water from that place, that's the local palette for me. So it's most important that you use the local palette and then you create a structure which is going to be sustainable, which is going to stand there and which will, when it withers off in the nature, is not going to create any residue which is going to pollute the space.
Shilpa, tell us about the you. You were the founder of Rachna Sunset,
Yes,
and also the principal for some time.
yeah.
Uh, tell us about that experience. I mean, what did it help
Um,
you with, or how
I
did you?
I always enjoyed the process of designing the syllabus and bringing in performance, new media, and all the new things that were not taught in the art college way back. We had a fantastic team of, I must thank Nikhil Chopra and Javed and the other people who are the faculty. We did a lot of experiments with the students, and it was more of a learning experience for me actually. Rather than teaching, I learned a lot.
Do you
There
have?
is one, sorry,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
there is
please.
one question from Facebook Live.
Yeah,
Pragati Dalvi is asking.
yes.
She says it's a fantastic palette of various mediums and expressions. And she's asking, can you tell more us about your upcoming work or the current work?
Sure. My upcoming work, I have a project in Taiwan which I cannot travel because of Corona, but it's for a pond in a palace. I have a work, I was supposed to be in Japan doing a work for a village. The entire village are paper makers. So I was supposed to make a site specific installation in an old Japanese house out of the handmade paper that the entire village is known for doing, and another project in Brussels and another project in France. So I had all these projects lined up for this year, and they have got cancelled now, and hopefully I'll start doing them next year in March.
Do you plan to do anything in India for a change?
I would love to if somebody invites me, gives me some small place in a public park or wherever. I would love to come and make a work.
Maybe you will be invited to Trivandrum very soon.
Oh, I would love to do that. I would love to come. I'm just waiting for the invitation.
Yes.
Okay, in the past, there are a lot of interventions where a lot of established artists go to tribal areas or any other such not so urban areas and do such kind of interventions where we kind of maybe involve artists, like involve local artists or even the local people over there and do a work. So even Navjot Altaf have done such works in the past. And she's also criticized and praised for the same. So now I want to want to hear from you how you took this intervention and how it was kind of addressing such a issue or such a problematic interventions.
The first thing is that when I went into the tribal area, I did not go with a role of helping them. I was going in that space as a researcher because I simply wanted to record the songs that have come down from generation to generation. So I was not telling them that I've come here to do something for you, to give something to you. No, I've come to take something from you and to record something from you. So that was the role. And the songs were wonderful. That video is there on the YouTube or on my website. You can Google it. You will find that video from Khoj. And I recorded those songs, but the children were so shy, it was impossible to communicate with them. So in order to do that, the second part of the project was to create play structures for the students. Now with a small budget and the restrictions that one had, I thought that I can use the recycled material. So tires would immediately give me like a large structure safe for the children to play. I got end of use tires which were safe without any wires or anything coming out, and they were durable weather-wise. So this was just like it was like a way of knowing them by creating these things for them and not telling them that I'm coming to do something for you. So I was not in the danger of going there with a role of, doing them a favor. I didn't take that position. I took a position of going as a researcher, as a learner to take something from them.
I just want to make an intervention there. Like that's a very good question. Definitely, Navjot Altaf, when she went to Bastar, she faced this criticism only not because that what she did there, but because that her work was not actually like coping with the moralistic fiber of the society. Like because she created a nude, and they even painted the nude with a sari. So that was one issue. And at this moment, I remember. It is not always exploitative that you go into a tribal place or a village place and do certain things. And if you look at that, Shantiniketan was one of the first interventions in that way, like which Rabindranath Tagore did in a big way. The second thing, like Shilpa must be quite aware, even Reshma must be knowing about Sandarbh. Our friend Chintan Upadhyaya, he started Sandarbh in Partapur, and also he took it in different places like Silvassa in South Gujarat. And a lot of artists actually got inspired by such kind of things. And even the local artists like say Lochan Upadhyaya, who is a theatre activist, he became Yatid Upadhyaya. Lochan is an artist. Yatid Upadhyaya actually he became a full-fledged performance artist there in Sandarbh. A lot of local artists participated in it. I think like it depends on the approach of the artist, whether one should be exploitative or actually, definitely we shouldn't take a missionary position. We shouldn't take that missionary attitude, to enlighten the people, because they have a lot to enlighten us in turn.
I was very clear about that position, and I went there as a learner and not as a giver. So did I satisfy?
Actually, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Shilpa, there's a question from Janvi some
Sangarka.
Sangarka.
Yeah.
Okay. Are Indian governments not interested in this kind of promotion of installations? One. And do you see yourself going back to the old medium of painting? You got it?
Yes.
Okay.
The Indian government, I have really, I'm hoping that they've come up with some schemes where we can protect some natural land where people can go and just, participate in a well-designed eco space. But I don't know whether the Indian government has got that kind of funds to give the artists. And the second question, going back to painting, yes, I do paint all the time. In fact, in the lockdown, I have been painting a lot. And yeah, I'm coming up with a different imagery than what I was doing way back then. So it is a interesting transition also.
Okay. So thank you so much, Shilpa, and a museum for this wonderful session. And thank you. It was wonderful to talk to you, Shilpa, after so long. And your works are really brilliant. And I do hope that I get to see some of your site-specific work in person sometime soon. Yeah. And thank you everybody for joining in with us. And I hope everyone got their answers the way they wanted to. And we'll see you soon. And have a good night. And thank you. Bye.